Joe Anderson and Al Clopine of Pure Financial Advisors have the answers to your retirement plan. This is your money, your wealth.
There are 5 key risks you have to take a look at if you're in retirement or close to retirement. These risks can absolutely devastate your overall retirement, and unfortunately, most of you don't know about them, are not prepared for them. So that's what we're going to get into today. So do not go anywhere. Over the next half an hour, we're going to help you protect your overall retirement nest egg and help you create the retirement of your dreams. Welcome to the show, Your Money, Your Wealth. My name is Joe Anderson. I'm a certified financial planner, president of Pure Financial Advisors. And of course, I'm always with my partner, Mr. Alan Clopine. He's sitting right over there. We're going to dive in today because if you take a look at the statistics, most people are worried about a couple of things. If the market crashes, what's going to happen to my overall nest egg? Absolutely, that's part of the 5, but there's 4 more that you need to know. That's what's on my mind today. So let's dive in right away. There's a lot of things that I want to get into, so without further ado, let's bring in the big man, Big Al Clopine. Big Al, we go out, we talk to a lot of individuals about their overall retirement. The number one fear people have today is not necessarily dying. It is actually living. It's living too long. It's healthcare, it's taxes, it's market corrections. There's a lot of things that people need to be aware of to make sure that they can solidify their overall retirement.
Yeah, there's no question, and you're absolutely right. People are afraid that they're going to outlive their money. That's really the number one fear. So today, we're going to get into those 5 different risks that we want to talk about. Not only what they are, but more importantly, what to do about them so that they don't impact you, or if they do impact you, you have a plan, you're ready for them. So here they are. First of all is health, and that's going to be medical cost. It could be long-term care. That was not much of a mystery. We don't exactly know how we're going to be fair in terms of our older age. Number 2 really is going to be the market, and we don't really have a lot of control over the market, but we do have control over how we invest. So we'll get into that. Certainly longevity, we don't really know how long we're going to live, and we are living longer. So you got to prepare for that. People are living into their 90s, even hundreds at this point. Inflation, that's no mystery. We haven't had a lot of inflation in the last few years, but that has been something that's been around for the last 200 years in our country and is not going anywhere. So you have to have a plan to deal with that. And then finally, higher taxes. There is a real concern among Joe and I and many of you that tax rates may be going up, and having a plan for that. So Joe, it's kind of neat that we're talking about this right now because we're in the holiday season, and it's you know, you get through the holidays, family time, but it's really time to start thinking about getting your ducks in a row so that you can have a good retirement.
Right. I mean, I think procrastination is always the key, right?
Right.
Everyone pushes it out because there's always something going on.
Right.
But if you take a look at the landscape today, most retirees are not prepared for retirement. They really don't understand how much money that they should be saving, how to create the retirement income that they need, pay the least amount of tax legally possible, and then looking at all these different risk factors. Because here's the fact of the matter. The number one concern of most retirees is that they're going to run out of money before they run out of breath. And if you look at the retirement today versus maybe a generation ago was completely different now because they had larger pension plans, right? They had Social Security and they had shorter life expectancies. So it was like an extended vacation. Today, we're living so much longer, and then with that longevity, guess what? There's also health issues that come along. So let's dive in. Let's look at the first risk that will blow up your retirement is healthcare costs.
Yeah, and here we are. This is a 65-year-old. This is from Fidelity Benefits Consulting. Actually, a 65-year-old married couple retiring today. It's estimated that lifetime medical costs will be $220,000 for the couple. And that doesn't even include long-term care if needed. So this is something, it's not a mystery. We know that as we get older, more things happen, and we got to be prepared for it. But the expense of it can be staggering.
So you got to think of it. All right, do you have an extra $200,000 just socked away just to cover medical costs? I mean, those are co-pays, those are prescriptions, those are all sorts of different things that you pay for each and every day. But a lot of that is covered through your normal health insurance. Once you're retired, you go on to Medicare, then you have Medigap policies, then you get in the ABCs of all that. I mean, that's a whole nother topic, a whole nother show. But you have to be prepared for upcoming, medical costs, because that's a huge concern that will drain a lot of money from your overall nest egg.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you think about it in terms of long-term care, so that $220,000 doesn't even include long-term care. If you do need long-term care, then of course it's going to cost a lot more. And let's get into the stats, because when you talk to insurance companies, they tend to scare you, although there is some merit there because it can be pretty expensive. But this is from a white paper that came out, a research team in 2005, and they found out that a 65-year-old had 42% of 65-year-olds will have no need for long-term care over their lifetime. 27% will pay somewhere between $1 and $25,000. Another 25% will pay $25,000 to $250,000. And unfortunately, 5% of you will pay over $250,000. So those are the stats. That's what you have to be aware of. And remember, that's in addition to that $220,000 figure that we told you.
So yeah, long-term care, it's looking at, all right, well now I need to go into a facility, or maybe it's in-home care, someone to help you. And then when it comes to long-term care stay, there's activities of daily living, transferring, dressing, bathing, things like that. And if you can't perform 2 of those daily activities, then that's where you go into a long-term care stay. So you have to have a plan for that. Is it insurance? Is it going to be self-pay? Is it going to be the kids? Maybe the kids will be your long-term care policy, which a lot of people might look at.
Yeah.
But here, take a look at this number. How much money, if you have to go into a long-term care stay, looking at the cost today, it's about $7,000 per month. $7,000 per month is what would have to come out of pocket if you need to go into a long-term care facility. Let's say 10 years from now, that number is $11,000 a month. 15 years, it's 14, 20 years, it's close to 20 grand. Now that's looking at a month, and that's a national average.
Right.
So if you go to Southern California, where do you think those costs are? Today it's not $7,000 a month, right? Yeah. It could be close to $10,000 or $12,000 depending on what facility that you go into.
And if you want an ocean view, forget about it.
Well, ocean view, but if you're in a long-term care facility,
you still want quality of life.
I suppose you do. You're just sitting in your bed, watching the ocean.
Anyway, so Joe, you are right. It's having a plan for that. And so for some of you, that's long-term care insurance. For other you have savings. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your equity in your home. But just be aware that it can be pretty expensive.
Yeah, if you look at a long-term care policy, right, to cover maybe a partial of that overall cost, the cost of long-term care insurance has gone through the roof. A lot of these insurance companies have even dropped it. They don't even want to get in that business anymore for a couple of reasons. Here's the deal, is that if you look at life insurance, right, people then have policy lapse. It's like, I'll buy a term policy for a certain period of time, maybe 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, maybe to cover the mortgage, maybe the kids are going to school, but then I don't need the insurance anymore. So I paid those premiums into that life insurance contract. I don't need the insurance, so I get rid of the insurance, and that death benefit never pays. If you look at long-term care insurance, everyone is using those policies if they need them, right? They're not letting those policies lapse. So that is making those premiums go sky high. So insurance companies say, you know what, I want to get out of this game. And if you try to get a policy today, it might cost you anywhere from $7,000 to $10,000 per year for a chance maybe 30% of you or 40% might need that. So it's a game, it's a shuffleboard. It's to figure out, all right, do I want to take the risk and self-insure? Do I want to transfer that risk to an insurance company? I would highly recommend you seek help from a qualified insurance carrier or insurance agent. Al and I do not sell insurance. We have nothing to do with insurance, but we want to make sure that you're aware of all the costs associated with it. All right, don't go anywhere. We got a lot more to discuss. What we want to do is talk about longevity. All right, there's a longevity risk. What the heck is that? We're living long. And so do you have enough capital in your bank account or in your retirement accounts to make sure that you can provide a lifestyle for the next 10, 20, 30, or 40 years in some cases? And then you have to put inflation on top of that. We'll talk about the market. There's a lot more to discuss, so don't go anywhere. Show is called Your Money, and it's your wealth. Hey, welcome back to the program. Show's called Your Money or Wealth. Joe Anderson, Big Al Clopine hanging out with you, talking finances in your overall retirement. Hey, let's get into it. Let's go to the true-false question. Let's see, or the multiple choice. I'm sorry, we're branching out.
We are. At what age am I required to take distributions from my IRA or 401k? Do you think it's 59 and a half, 66, or 70 and a half? If you said C, You are correct.
Well, a lot of people get that confused.
They do.
So there's certain ages that are very important that we just put up there, 59 and a half, 66, and 70 and a half. So 59 and a half is the first age that you can start legally, or taking money, I mean, it's your money, you can always take the money out of your retirement account without that 10% penalty. Unless it's a 457 plan, then you can pull it out, or unless you use a 72T tax election.
There's a million
and I'm not gonna
exemptions,
go there.
but yeah.
59 and a half can pull the money out without a 10% penalty. Now, 66, why 66, Al?
Yeah, because that's your full retirement age. So that's when you take Social Security. Now you can take Social Security earlier at 62, and you can take it later, which is 70. But your full retirement age is 66. If you take
it could be 66 in 6 months, 66 in 1 month.
Well, I'm going for most people.
Okay.
You're right. Depending
it
upon
could be 67, depending on
depending
how
upon
old
the date of birth. Wow, we're going to get into all these.
The true and false would be
all
the
day
A to
on
Z.
those. Yeah,
Right?
yeah. And 70 and a half, as we mentioned, that's when you have to take money out of your IRA, 401k, whether you want to or not, and that money will be taxable. A lot of people don't realize when you pull money out, you got to pay the tax on that. So 59 and a half, you can take it out. You will pay tax, but there is no penalty. 70 and a half, you have to take it out. There's no question. And if you don't take it out, 50% penalty on what you missed. A $20,000 required distribution, penalty would be $10,000, so you don't want to do that.
Huge penalties, a lot of rules, a lot of regulations when it comes to your overall retirement and just trying to figure this stuff out. Now, we get a lot of concerns about the market. And so I think we got a video clip of a question from you, one of our viewers.
Hi, Joe. My question is, are we looking at a tremendous downturn in the market?
Well, if I knew the answer to that question, I would not be sitting here right now.
True.
No one knows the answer to that.
That's true.
Yeah, well, I guess, yes, we are. I don't know what your definition of tremendous downturn is, but of course, we are going to see a correction in the overall markets. 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%. Who knows how big, how bad, but no one knows when. Just understand that stocks are volatile. Stocks go up, stocks go down. That's why we have a certain expected return when you invest in those type of asset classes. Now, when they go down, remember there too is that your expected return is the highest when stocks are down. When stocks are up, your expected return is the lowest. So that's why you have to have a strategy to understand, okay, well, how much money do I want in stocks? How much money do I want in bonds? Because there will be a market correction. Understand that. There will be. But then you want to make sure that you act appropriately when it happens. You know, you don't want to figure out how to use a parachute after you jump out of a plane. You want to make sure that you understand how that parachute works before you even get in the plane. It's the same thing with your portfolio. Because when markets go bad, most people do the wrong thing and get out and jump. And they don't understand what impact that's going to make on their overall retirement or their investments long term.
Well, that's right. And I think a lot of people, they have this notion that, well, if the market's high right now, maybe I should just get out. And so therefore I can be on the sidelines for a while. And then it'll go down and I'll get back in. And that's also known as market timing, which sounds like a good idea, except that history tells us that that doesn't work very well. And when you look at the Dalbar study that comes out each and every year of how you guys are doing versus the market, here's an example of the last 30 years since through 2013. So the average investor made a little over maybe 3.5%. Yet the market over that same 30-year period earned 11% per year. So you're losing out of about 7% rate of return. How can this possibly happen? It's because you're buying and selling at the wrong times. And if you think about it, when the market's going up, we get excited, so we tend to buy. So we're buying high. When the market goes down, we get fearful and we tend to sell.
And it's not even that. It's looking at different asset classes. Because if you look at the U.S. markets from 2008, right, 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, the markets have done phenomenally well here in the U.S. So everyone is going, hey, let's go into large cap domestic stocks, the ones that you know. And then why would I ever get into international stocks? Because international, those are bad. Well, here, you don't necessarily want to do that too. So much money is flooding into the U.S. market right now, and what is that doing to prices? It's driving those prices up. Now, there's certain areas of the market that have not performed overall very well this year, such as small companies and international. So that's where the areas of the market that you want to buy. So you're buying low, and then you're selling high, and you're rebalancing your structure and the strategy of your investments to make sure that you're managing your risk. But you first have to start out to say, all right, well, what is the money for? How long is that money going to last you? And you'll be surprised of actually how long that money needs to last you because of longevity and how long people are living right now.
Yeah, actually we are.
You have to be in the markets today.
Well, yeah, you do.
Because you need that money for 30 years. It's not, hey, it's not tomorrow. It's tomorrow plus another some odd years.
Right, and again, when you look at the market, it is higher than it has been. In fact, the price to earnings ratios are about 16 or about 17 to 18 right now. The average over historical is about 16, so we're a little bit higher valued. But international stocks have not done as well. They're lower valued, and some of the small companies in value, Joe, as you said, their buys there as well. You want to have a good diversified portfolio. But you need to be in the market at all times because of your longevity, and we're living a lot longer.
Well, here's the bottom line. There's two reasons why you got to invest. All right, A, that the money needs to last you for maybe 10, 20, 30 years, like I just said, and also you have to beat inflation. So let's go into a couple of things here. So if we go back here, the 1900s, I think that, Alan, is that when you were born, 1900?
Yeah.
So the life expectancy right there was 47 years, 47.3 years, right? And then, oh, what did we have here? That's very bad, Ebola, right?
Not quite.
so then you look, all right, if I look at 2002, the life expectancy was close to 80 years. Now, of course, that number is growing. You know, it's funny, the fastest growing demographic here in the U.S. is people turning age 100. So then you have to ask yourself this: do I have enough capital to maintain my lifestyle to age 100? And don't say this, hey, I don't want to live to age 100. Because if you're still in pretty good health in your 90s, I guarantee you still want to hang out with the grandkids and the great-grandkids. So moving on here. So let's say if today you were born, life expectancy, females 81, males 76. Let's say I am 55 years of age today. My life expectancy now is close to 84, right? So if you are 85 today, right now your life expectancy is 91, because the longer that you live, of course, then the expectancy of you living that much longer is greater. So you have to plan here to say, okay, well, I'm going to live a long time, so I need that capital to last. If I have all of my money sitting in cash, right, this is what's going to happen to you potentially. 1970. Okay, if I wanted to buy a stamp, it cost 6 cents. If I look today, right, it's 46 cents. If I look 15 years from now, it's going to be close to $1 just for a postage stamp. Now, look at college education. Back in 1970, the cost of education was $1,200. Now, if I look today, the cost is close to $18,000. Now, that's a state school. If you want to go to Harvard, Yale, Ivy League schools, different schools, of course, have different costs. But if you're looking to put a kid through 4 years of education, that's going to cost you $100,000, maybe a couple $100,000. If I'm looking at 15 years out, 1 year is going to cost close to $50,000. That's a state school. So just imagine of some of the private schools what those numbers are going to look like. That's why you need to invest. There's two reasons. One, you're living a lot longer, and A, you have to outpace inflation. It's a big deal, Al.
Yeah, and I would say having 2 kids in college, at state school right now is probably closer to $20,000 room and board, and a UC campus right now is probably at least $30,000, approaching $35,000. I have one son that goes to University of Colorado in Boulder. Now you're talking closer to $50,000. So these are real numbers, and they keep growing.
All right, we got to take a short break. When we get back, we want to get into end-of-year tax planning. There's still a little bit of time to make sure that you can mitigate the taxes on your retirement. So we talked about longevity risk. We were living a lot longer. Inflation is a real thing. Then you have markets. What do you do with the overall market? Should I get in the market, get out of the market? Now let's get into taxes. We talked about healthcare as well. A lot more things to discuss, so don't go anywhere. Show's called Your Money, and it's Your Wealth. Hey, welcome back to the show. Show's called Your Money, Your Wealth. Joe Anderson here, certified financial planner, Big Al Clopine, hanging out, trying to make you smarter with your overall money. So, hey, let's dive in. Let's see how you did on this week's True/False question.
Certain types of asset classes outperform others over the long term. For example, Small company stocks beat large company stocks over the long term.
Well, we're not predicting anything here, but if you look at history, the answer is true.
Yes, it is true over the long term. See, that's the key, right? In the short term, anything's possible, and small company stocks are more volatile than large company stocks, but that extra risk, you get compensated with a better return over the long term.
Right, I mean, if you think about it like this, so if you have a smaller company, right, so let's say Alan has a small company versus Google, and if Alan needs some capital to help build his organization, hire more employees, build infrastructure or whatever, right, there's a lot more risk in a smaller company, so you should expect a higher rate of return. If I'm a larger company, the perceived risk is a lot less because I'm already established. So just understand, just common logic here, when you invest, smaller companies have outperformed large companies just due to the fact there is more risk in small companies. We're not saying load up on small companies, just understand that you want a sliver of that in your overall portfolio. Let's get into taxes. End of year, Al, what should people do?
Well, end of year, there's only just a little bit of time to make some final tweaks, but I want to show a history of taxes first before I answer that question. And if you look back way when taxes started in the early 1900s, you can see the highest marginal rates. They've been pretty high for a long time until recently. The last 20 years or so, the tax rates have been lower. The question is, where are they going? And a lot of people have concerns that they may be going up. And why that's important for you right today is to consider this. If you believe tax rates are going up, you might want to get more money into a tax-free environment like a Roth IRA, because a Roth IRA is a special kind of retirement account that grows tax-free, which is a lot better than a regular IRA that grows tax-deferred. But getting money into a Roth IRA, there's a couple ways to do it. One is a contribution. You have actually all the way to April 15th to do that, so no rush right this moment. $5,500 per person or $6,500 if you're over 50. But you do have to have earned income, and there are income limitations, which means if you make too much, then you can't contribute. But a Roth conversion, now this is something that you really want to consider over the next week or so, because this has to be done by December 31st. So this is really one of the best things that you can do over this holiday season to figure out, does this make sense to me? Do I want to take some of my IRA or 401k money and get it into a Roth? I do pay tax on the conversion, but all future growth income and principal is tax-free forever.
That's what you want to do in this holiday season. Give yourself a Roth IRA.
The gift of the
gift
Roth.
of tax-free income for the rest of your life.
Yeah, the gift of the Roth. In fact,
now here's some everyone qualifies for a Roth IRA. It doesn't matter. If you have a qualified account, or IRA, 401k, 403b, TSP, 457, you can convert those into Roth IRAs. It has to be done before year end, so we encourage you to take a look at it. Now remember this, any dollar that you convert into a Roth IRA, you can always recharacterize it. You can always put the money back. So if you put money into a Roth IRA over the next couple of weeks, you do your taxes next year, and you decide, you know what, I don't care about tax-free income in the future. I do not want to pay the tax today, so I want to recharacterize that account. You absolutely can do that. No harm, no foul, no penalties, nothing. But here's the biggest thing. Al and I are talking about ways to save money in tax, and what we're telling you to do is pay the tax. Pay it now so you will ever, forever, and ever have your money grow tax-free. We got to go, but let me go to this email question real quick. If you got it.
This is one that we get all the time. This is from Jared in Mission Viejo. And he asks, if I incorporate my business in Nevada, can I avoid California income taxes? And the answer to that, very simply, is no, unless you move to Nevada. Now, most small businesses are S corporations or LLCs, which means they flow through. So the profits flow through to you. If you're a California resident, it's taxed in California regardless of where the business is located. So you would actually have to move to Nevada to be able to avoid taxes. Or one more quick thing is you could incorporate as a C corporation, then your corporate profits are taxed in Nevada, but they're stuck in your corporation. The only way to get them is to pay yourself a salary or dividend, and you will pay California taxes there. So there's no easy way around this without moving.
We talked about the 5 risks that are jeopardizing your overall retirement. Taking a look at longevity, we're living a lot longer. Looking at inflation, inflation is a silent tax. We just talked about taxes. We talked about a market correction. And last but not least, healthcare costs. all of those things are going to affect your retirement. Hopefully this helped you out, because there's a lot of different things that you need to consider in constructing your overall retirement strategy. It's just not one thing, it's several different components to make sure that you're successful. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be back again very, very soon. For Big Al Clopine, I'm Joe Anderson. You just watched Your Money, Your Wealth.